And we are live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I'm Fred Lambert, your host, and I'm joined by Seth Winshaw, coming us from shiny Florida. How you doing, Seth?
Good. Hopefully I'm not that shiny.
No, the state is shiny, not
shiny. Yeah.
All right. Let's jump in, and we're going to start, as you can expect, with the biggest news of the week that came out just yesterday. Surprising, I think, for most people. For what was surprising for me, and that's Ford kind of borrowing the lead a little bit with this one, but they came out with this meeting between Jim Farley, this Twitter space, really. This keeps popping up. I don't know. This is terrible. This one, we don't need it.
Different browser.
Yeah, maybe I should try to get Chrome. Like, some weeks it's working better than other. All right. So Jim Farley sits down with Elon Musk to make a Twitter space, and the way that they phrased it, at first I wasn't sure if it's going to be an announcement, or if it was just going to be Elon like pushing spaces again. It's just after the DeSantis announcement, just the day prior to that, and I thought he was just like really pushing hard spaces because he was. The week before that, after the shareholder meeting, he had like a CNBC interview and he insisted that it's going to be on Spaces and everything. So like when I saw that Ford and that Jim Farley is going to have a Spaces with Elon, I wasn't exactly sure if it was going to be a thing or not. And then I was surprised because they started the announcement saying that Tesla and Ford partner to facilitate Ford EV owners using the supercharger network. And they say, 12,000 Ford EV owners going to have access to 12,000 supercharger next year. That 12,000 superchargers in North America, that's all Tesla superchargers in North America. So we thought, okay, it shows that Tesla is going to just keep opening up and they're going to work with Ford with that. That's nice. But then the real news is that right after that, they say, but in 2025, Ford's going to start implementing Tesla's, we should try to stop using saying that it's a Tesla plug.
NACS.
The NACS, the North American Charging Standard, which is the original Tesla proprietary plug, but that they opened up to try to make it a standard last year. But when they did that, we were like, it was most people were saying it's just too little, too late. Like that would have been good maybe like 5 years ago would have worked, but now like CCS has one in North America, like they did in Europe, or CCS2 in Europe. So now. It's still alive. The idea is still alive. We'll see if it's going to create a domino effect, because Ford has announced that they will integrate it in its next generation vehicles starting in 2025. So that means like the new Ford F-150, that electric that's supposed to come out, that's going to follow the Lightning. Now they didn't say if they're going to go exclusively NACS or if they're going to do a dual charger type of thing. That would be telling.
I asked Ford that directly, and they said they're not sure yet.
They're not sure yet. Yeah, I don't know. I think you can afford to go just NACS and be perfectly fine with it. And if you go just NACS, then that puts a little bit more pressure maybe on the others. We'll see if it's going to create a domino effect just yet or not. I think you need one other big one to really make a difference. What do you think, Seth?
I agree. I think this is a huge moment in the electric vehicle world. Until yesterday, CCS combo would have been the odds-on favorite to be the standard going forward. Now it's kind of up in the air. I think Ford might be waiting to see if other, maybe even charging manufacturers jump on. So,
EVgo has jumped on,
right? But like Flow and Electrify America and all the others, like, are they going to jump in there as well? And then we were talking earlier about like some other manufacturers, like will Rivian go, and will Rivian move their network over, or will I guess Volkswagen would be the last one to go, because they have, I don't know, they have
American Electrify America, but like you said, they could switch Electrify America. Like, they're not married to the CCS at Electrify America. It would be a task to retrofit, but they can also just do an adapter like already exists. So there's a lot of things that can happen. So the big news with this week, I think, is like it opens up possibly, like you said before this week, even though there's more Tesla connectors out there than CCS in North America, CCS was the favorite to just take over, even after Tesla opened the standard last year. Now, I think they're still favorite just because of the momentum, how many EV makers are favoring it. But the fact that Ford, which like is not a big player in the EV space right now in terms of volume, but it's planning to be, and they have two very good EV models available for sales right now with the Mustang Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning, which both became like a lot more attractive just from that announcement. Like in one, just saying this makes those two vehicles more attractive to buyers. Even if right now it would mean using it with an adapter. But that's a big difference. We should go back to the announcement too, because we are very focused on Ford integrating the Tesla connector or the NACS connector into the vehicle. But part of the announcement too is more like immediate. And I assume that's Ford. They wanted that to try to boost sales, obviously, because otherwise people are going to just be waiting for the Fords that have the NACS. Is that right now, Tesla is already. So at first, I was a bit confused by the news because, like, what does that mean, having access to 12,000 superchargers? Because Tesla is already opening up their supercharger network through the Magic Dock thing. But what Elon made clear is that actually they're going to offer an adapter to Ford owners.
And he said it was going to be like $100, $200, something like that.
Yeah. He mentioned $100, but he didn't like that's. As it's often the case with Elon and Tesla, is like it doesn't seem to be fully baked, this idea just yet, because he wasn't sure about that. Then he was also asked on the call about the charge rate, if Ford owners are going to be limited in the charge rate compared to Tesla owners. And at first he was kind of skating a little bit on the question, but then he was like, we will make sure that the adapter is not the bottleneck or the supercharger is not the bottleneck. So it's going to be on Ford's sides of thing to be able to take the highest possible charge rate. So, but the way he said it, it made it sound like the adapter is not ready at all. Like that's what it sounded like to me.
Yep.
But it's a nice idea that Ford owners are going to be able to just buy a relatively cheap adapter and then automatically get access to all Tesla supercharger rather than wait for those Magic Docks ones, which now also that has implication on Tesla's approach now to opening up the supercharger network to other EVs, because are they going to keep going with the Magic Dock approach, or are they going to just sell those adapters not just to Ford but to other EVs too?
That's great question. Is you know kind of what I was thinking as well. Like if they can sell $100 adapter to Ford, why not sell to everybody else? And then the another question is like, are they going to change? Like when Ford is building their own CCS, and I think Carl or Dan Oberste asked this in the comments, like when Ford decides to build its NACS into its cars, it's going to have to build it into a place like where they can charge at it. Yeah, so they'll put it probably in the back of the Ford, although that's not great for if you're towing. So but they'll have to put it on the corner of the vehicle somewhere, which will be much better for, it won't take up 2 spots at least. But still, I mean, there's still a lot of questions here. I'm kind of like, if you can build a $100 adapter and make the adapter pretty easy to use, I don't know. It doesn't seem like that big.
I mean, the Magic Dock is, I think, a better solution in terms of user experience, because there's no chance of forgetting an adapter, which can happen. So you eliminate. You want to make anything as dumb proof as possible, and that's a big one, obviously. And then you very simple to use with the app. Show up, unlock, plug it in, and it's charging. Very simple to use. So not that big of a difference with the adapter being in the end of the consumer, but just a little bit, tiny little difference. Either way, I think it's good news all around. Good news for Ford, obviously, just made all their electric vehicles a lot more useful. A good news for Tesla in the sense, I know that Tesla owners are not super happy about, not all Tesla owners, but some of them are not happy about more traffic at the supercharger network. But I think Tesla is going to compensate that with more chargers, period. And now for Tesla, it's a plus because they are making their supercharger network a bigger business. and using that money to grow the network. And that's a big thing for Tesla too. Like Tesla is gonna probably like own long distance chargings in the US if it keeps going that way. Now I think it's also a win for the broader EV market, because I think it's going to force these other charging network to up their game significantly. At least I'm hoping. That's me a little bit hopeful on that front.
All right, I'm going to try to share the screen as well.
Yeah. Okay.
See if I can do that.
Yeah, it seems to be working for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because anyway, now we need to see it from the Cybertruck, because we want to see the Cybertruck. All right. Drop to the other picture that we see it a little bit better. Yeah, okay. Oof. All right, so this picture leak, it looks like it's the Cybertruck prototype that was at the Tesla annual shareholder meeting that we saw a picture from the outside, not the inside. And this picture has not been well received by the Tesla community for the most part. Not impressed. I think the bigger problem, it might be the effect of the camera too. It might be like stretching it out a little bit, but I mean, we knew that the dash was going to be big. We knew just from the form factor of the truck, it's going to have a big dash. But it looks almost weird how big it is. Like it looks like it should be like different. I don't know. Also, if you go up a little bit, people are complaining about the pillar, the obstruction of the view from the pillar. I don't think that's huge, but like it also was to be expected because of the form factor. Then we got a good look at the steering wheel of the Cybertruck. The first very good look at the steering wheel confirms there's no stock. So I mean, that's also what I was expecting with the Model S and X, that Tesla has moved that away. We see the use of the Force Touch buttons again. And then it looks like some kind of hybrid between the yoke and the round steering wheel found in the Model S and X, basically. Because it does have a top and a bottom, unlike the yoke, but it is not exactly round either.
Yeah, that's going to be a weird thing, I think, for truck drivers to get used to there.
Yeah,
it seems.
And you're not supposed to drive this truck. It's going to be fully self-driving.
Right,
so
right,
who cares?
Right. Yeah. See how that goes.
Yeah, the interior picture also confirms, well, this seems to confirm that Tesla has given up the idea of having a center seat in the third row, in the front row, sorry, because this looks like not the one that was seen in the prototype. It looks like immovable, and then there's also some room in the center console, though, in front, like they used to be in the old Model S and X original one, where like you can put your purse there or something.
Yeah. So I want to talk about this dashboard.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that is like a front camper bedding area. You could sleep.
That's a good. Yeah, you're right.
It seems quite large. Actually, you probably could put a big solar panel down there, like a like a rooftop, 3x5 solar panel. Make some electricity.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. It looks like it's not flat. I don't know if it's the like it looks like Alcantara material. So I don't know if it's just like sometimes you just put your hand on the Alcantara and then it changes the color on one side, but it looks like it's not flat. But the front, it like lifts up a little bit. It's a weird look. There's just no way around it. It's gonna take some use to. Again, I think it might be also the point of view of the camera. It might be a little bit weird if they go with the wide lens, but from the top.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that you can't really see that Giga Wiper.
No.
That is kind of off to the side there, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. Carl in San Diego says it's a dog bed. It could be a bed for like a Doberman. It's so big.
Yeah. Dachshund or whatever.
But we polled a little bit around people seeing the pictures, and other than like the Tesla super fans, a lot of people have impressed. Like, I mean, it's minimalist, but we anticipated that. And Model 3, Model Y interior is minimalist, but I think it just works a little bit better than this. And it has to be the form factor is limiting. Like, what do you do instead of this dash? Like, what can you do? Can you bring the cabin a little bit forward so it's not so? I assume that they brought it as forward as they could, right? There's no way around. Like,
yeah, I mean, I feel like you've got a really, you're starting from a very weird point where you have this like triangular cockpit area, and it's hard to make that look, especially with Tesla's minimalist kind of style. It's hard to make this look like anything that you're used to or comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because normally if you had like, they would have to have gone with some kind of like Mercedes-Benz type of like full screen all around, like that hides most of it from side to side. But because they stuck to the same screen, or maybe it's a little bit bigger in a Cybertruck, I'm not so sure, but still it's nowhere big enough to hide that dash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's so close to production that I would assume this is pretty much what we're going to see in the production version.
Yeah. It is weird that usually we get about 50% liking things and 50% not liking things when it comes to Cybertruck, and I feel like this one was like 95% dislike. So
yeah, easily. All right, the next news is the hardware 4.0 from Tesla is making its way to the Model Y. Some Model Ys have been spotted at delivery centers with the 4.0 sensor suite, and in the codes on the new inventory website ready for delivery, some vehicles have shown up with hardware 4.0. And this is just what's weird about Tesla with not doing the Model Year thing. And I mean, this is go beyond just not doing the Model Year. It's just, I think they're just being very shady because they don't want anyone to not buy because they're waiting for the car. But at this point, it's been months because we had the Model S and X too that already has the hardware 4.0. Now the Model Y gets it, so only the Model 3 doesn't have it. And Tesla still hasn't like officially announced anything about it. Elon did mention it officially once. He said like, yeah, it's coming and everything, and it's gonna be like he just said like it's gonna be certain like a little bit some percentage better than hardware 3, and he still believes obviously that they can deliver self-driving on hardware 3, but that is hardware 4 is going to enable some higher performance. Okay, but other than that, everything we know about it, we know from seeing the actual sensor suite. The teardown that was done by was it Nginx or was it Green? I don't remember, but the teardown of the computer that shows that the radar is there. So there's a new radar. There's the different setup with the configuration of the camera, with the potential to add a third front-facing camera. Now there's only 2. There's the new one that are in the fenders, and in the back too, it's a different position. Other than that, about the hardware in themselves, the cameras, the lenses have been upgraded, and the computer itself, like it was an incremental improvement on the computer side of things. But that's all from like information that we get from teardowns and from seeing the cars. Tesla hasn't even updated their website saying that these new features are available in the car. Not the radar is not there. If you go on the Model S and X, they don't talk about radar. They just talk about the cameras, even though we know that there's a radar in the car. So that's what's a little bit weird about Tesla with these things. Like they were being very hush-hush about that stuff.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, it'd be kind of a bummer to get, like, if you bought a car now to get a hardware 3, even though today hardware 3 is going to operate much better than hardware 4.
Oh yeah, good point.
But you know, going forward, hardware 4 is going to be a little bit better.
Would assume eventually.
Yeah.
And then, so only the Model 3 now does not have it. I don't know if it's because maybe of the Highland they're waiting, because the Highland must be like just weeks to months max away from launch. We're talking about Q3, and we're at the end of Q2 already. So maybe they're waiting to launch that with the new hardware. Not so sure. I would really like to sit down Elon Musk and talk like just about FSD and try to quench some of our concerns about it, because there's a lot to be concerned about with this hardware stuff, but also like he said at the shareholder meeting about these local maximum that Tesla is reaching, and they don't see it, and that's what's creating the delays. But then he's like, now we think we get it, we're getting it now. They're like, what makes you think that you're not in another local maximum? And like that's what I would like to understand, because he explained it very well, but then he didn't explain. So what if we're just not seeing the next local maximum? I don't know. But and moving on, we are going to talk about the Model Y coming out right now in Berlin with the BYD Blade cells. So that's been something that we've been following for a while, and it's the new form factor that BYD has been doing. That's call it blade cells because it looks like a blade. They're very thin pouch cells, but much longer. Normally, a pouch cell is about a few inches wide. This one looks like a few feet wide. LFP also, so a lot of vehicles have been going that way, and now they're producing them out of Gigafactory Berlin. And the interesting thing is that we're already getting some data about the charging speed of it. So we see here the charging curve have been done, and the interesting thing about this charging curve is that while it looks like it's getting the same peak charge rate as the CATL LFP cells, it is maintaining that charge rate for a longer period of time. And then as it tempers off, it's also maintaining a higher charge rate through an extended state of charge. So in this case here, you can see getting to about 175 kilowatts all the way through 50% state of charge instead of closer to like 30% state of charge for the CATL cells. So it's just that 20% going to 50 is going to happen much faster. So that's good. And then you can still stay over 100 kilowatts past 70%. So, or actually around 70%, it starts to temper off below 100, which is also pretty good. I would have liked some timing on that, but I would assume you get from 10 to 80 in under 30 minutes, easy, probably 20 minutes.
Yeah, any improvement there would be beneficial. So, talk to me about the red line and the green line here. Is that it says BYD 7C 60 kilowatt hour?
Yeah. So those two are the two new BYDs, but different. Like charging station obviously can be affected by a bunch of different factors. Gotcha. So I don't know exactly what happened there. Could be temperature, could be if you enter the supercharger in the navigation, so it preheated the battery. There's a lot of things that can be affecting it. But you can see the consistent, at least from the longer charge rate, even though it doesn't maintain it as high for as long, it's pretty close. So it could be a temperature issue.
Right. Yeah, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was happy about that. Now, obviously, we want to see how it performs too in the cold, because that has been a concern for LFP cells. But I'm going to have to wait until the next winter in Europe for that.
Yep.
Elon had a quick little comment during his interview with the Wall Street Journal at the CEO Council from the Wall Street Journal. I listened to the whole thing. It was not super. If you follow Elon closely, there was not a lot of new stuff. But he did mention that Tesla plans to probably, of course, announce a new Gigafactory location by the end of the year. So that's always exciting. And we knew that even though Gigafactory Mexico was just announced a few months ago, we knew that there has to be at least another one, maybe two more announced relatively shortly, because not all Gigafactories come online as fast as like Shanghai and maybe Mexico. We'll see, because Mexico already looks to be behind the schedule of Shanghai that they wanted to imitate. So normally it takes at least like 2-3 years to get to production, and then to get to volume production, it's another 2 years after that. So we're talking about most likely like a 5 years timeline to get actual like high volume out of this thing, and from signing a deal, I mean, or groundbreaking, however you want to put it. And if the goal is 20 million cars a year by 2030, you got to make these deals soon. And another one is going to come by the end of the year. Now, where could it be? We've heard, of course, Canada has been rumored for a while. I think it could still be in play, though, Canada. At the same time, Tesla looks to also be interested in maybe not a vehicle factory, but a battery factory. Or nowadays, Tesla is also getting into precursors to battery cells production. So we might be seeing that too. I don't know. Other than that, India sounds like it's close to a deal, and it would make a lot of sense for Tesla to have another factory in Asia. And more recently, too, we've heard France. Elon met with French President Macron, and they said that big investment is likely from Tesla in the future. And it also makes sense for Tesla to have a second factory in Europe. But yeah, I think India, if it's this year, the announcement in India most likely, and I wouldn't be surprised if Canada is still in the running, though again, maybe not for a full vehicle factory.
All right. The Tesla files.
Yeah, that was a weird one. So that also happened yesterday. It's how do you pronounce that? Endelsblatt?
Yeah, I guess Endelsblatt.
Yeah, Endelsblatt. So it's a German newspaper. They claim to have insiders releasing 100 gigabits of information from Tesla. And Tesla confirmed it, though they didn't say it's several insiders. They are talking about a single insider, most likely a service employee that gained access to more information that normally service employees have access to, downloaded it before leaving the company. Tesla did say he's a former employee, and Tesla says that they're going to take actions against them because this is stolen information. Now, Endelsblatt is keeping that information, and they are releasing articles that based on their interpretation of this information. And so far, I'm not super impressed by the reporting. It looks like they're just trying to make Tesla look bad on autopilot. They talk about 3,000 reports of autopilot failure, and they say this is a huge deal. But honestly, I'm not surprised to hear 3,000 reports of autopilot failure. Autopilot, there's been billions of miles ridden on autopilot at this point. There's millions of vehicles, millions, maybe not 4, but close to 4 million Tesla vehicles that are equipped with autopilot, and they're driving autopilot most days, several miles. So we're talking about billions of miles ridden on autopilot. So the fact that there's 3,000 incident reports, I'm not surprised by it. And the most concerning part of it is probably the leak in itself, because it includes apparently confidential information on consumers and employees. So the fact that it happened is not good. But on the consumer side of things, and that released a tool where you're supposed to check. You can check if your car is part of that leak. And I partnered up with Jason Huge and to check, and he put a script on it, and he checked 1,000 VIN pretty fast, and only 13 came back positive, and it's not exactly clear what kind of information they have on these cars. It looks more heavy on the employee side of things, and it is concerning if an employees can easily have access to social security information and salary information for all employees. That's not good. So Tesla should definitely tighten things up. But on the autopilot side of things, I was not impressed on what came out of it. And what I liked to, and I posted it on Twitter, the editor-in-chief of Handelsblatt, he posted an opinion piece where he justified posting the stolen information, which I like. It's okay to get sources and post information, but he said this needs to be in the public domain, and then all of the articles are behind paywall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah! All right, this came out just today. This is news. Tesla Electrek. So we've been seeing the early days of Tesla Electrek, which is a new division for Tesla. That's an actual electricity retailer in Texas for now, but obviously they plan to expand to other markets. It's just that they have received approval in Texas that has a kind of a far west style electric utility market where it's free for all, and for good and for bad. But for good, they enabled Tesla to launch this thing. They announced it earlier this year at the Investor Day, where they're going to do unlimited overnight charging. So you get on Tesla's rates, which they posted actually today. Looks like decent rate, about 9 cents per kilowatt hour. And overnight, you can pay $30 a month, and no matter how much kilowatt hour that you use during that night to charge, it's $30 a month. That's all.
So $1 a day. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, $1 a day. So charging your car to full capacity is going to cost you $1, basically.
It's gonna be great for Uber drivers.
Yeah, exactly. That but everyone that use their cars EV during the day, it's going to be great news. And now what they're doing a little incentive thing. So it's weird. It looks like they want to both onboard people on that program and also use it because it's also an incentive to buy a Tesla. Because if you put that process into the cost of ownership, and it's going to reduce your cost of ownership. But it hasn't launched. It's launching in July apparently, but they are. You can already. We put a link to a tool on the website on the electric regulators in Texas, where you can check if you are eligible to the Tesla electric plan, and if you are, you can buy a Model 3 and say that you're going to get on that plan, and they're going to pay for your first year, basically overnight charging. So your first year is going to be free. You're going to charge your car for free overnight. So it's $30 a month that you're going to save for the first year. And that's if you take delivery of the car by the end of June, obviously. So it's like a little end of a quarter incentive from Tesla, but just for people in Texas that can be on this rate. And that can be anyone, but basically you just need to be able to charge your car on your own electric meter. So even if you're in an apartment, but you can plug your car in an electric meter that is connected to your account, you can do it. So that's interesting. Also, you don't need a Tesla connector. Everything is done through the car. You don't need a Tesla Powerwall. Don't need any of that. Your electricity provider is going to be Tesla.
What's interesting is there's nothing that would stop Tesla from doing this to other EV owners.
I
Eventually,
think maybe they would need a charger. They would need something Tesla to control the charge rate, because that Tesla needs to oversee the charge rates from, like, it needs to be after 10 p.m. before 6 a.m. I think.
Yeah, but you could just buy a Tesla charger with one of those.
That's right. There's no. I mean, right now they say that they're doing it from the car side, so maybe they need to update something on the charger side, because you don't need a Tesla charger even to do it. So.
Yep.
But it's an interesting new feature that Tesla is working on. Oh yeah, we had the little exclusive this week too on the Tesla Powerwall 3. We had the exclusive that it is coming just earlier this month. We saw that it was certified by electric utilities in the US, but there's still new information about it. Now an electric reader sent us this PV hazard control system documentation that was on their Tesla solar installation documentation that they're about to do. So it looks like Tesla is starting to plan to install those Powerwalls now to a new installation that are linked to the solar system that they sell. And in those, we don't have that much information about the specs of the Powerwall 3, but there was one thing that we knew is the power output. So it does mention the power output of 11.5 kilowatts, which is higher than the peak power output of the Powerwall Plus, which was 9.6 kilowatt. However, if I'm looking at those rated power outputs there, it looks like it's the maximum continuous power when it's on the grid. The actual Powerwall have a higher max output if they are off-grid mode. And it looks like these are on-grid mode, so I would assume that the power output of Powerwall 3 is even greater than 11.5, because that's 7.6, I think, for the Powerwall Plus. So if it goes from 7.6 to 11.5 on just the on-grid, it could be much higher in the off-grid. So that's interesting. So that's 7.6 to 11.5. I think that's 50% higher, literally. So it's a big upgrade. Now that's on the power side of thing. It's not on the energy storage, energy capacity of it. So currently the Powerwall Plus has 13.5, and that has been the case since Powerwall 2. So we don't know if there's going to be an upgrade on that front. I would assume if the power output has increased so much, I would assume the energy capacity has increased too. Now by 50%, I don't know. But I could see something between like 16 and 20 kilowatt hour, because that could probably make it a lot easier for the installation, where you have just one to install, because now a lot of Tesla installation are installing two of them at a time, and installing two of something take longer than installing one of something.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. So, 7.6, that's 32 amps. 11.5, that's 48 amps. That's 11.5 is going to be enough power to power almost every house,
Yeah.
Reasonably. So one Powerwall is going to be kind of the default.
Yeah, because that's the thing that a lot of people don't think about when they think they need a Powerwall, where they think, oh yeah, 13.5 is good. It's enough for like I lose electricity for a few hours or whatever, which is true. But the limitation is actually more on the continuous power side, or at least it was for Powerwall 2 at 5 kilowatts. Like most home needed at least 2, and even with the Powerwall Plus at 7.6. It was also somewhat limiting in 9.8 off grid. So now, and that, it's also a big deal for the discharge rate for those that are using the net metering, because if you're sending in energy back to the grid, the limitation factor is the power output of the Powerwall. So now, if you have one of those events in California, for example, we're talking about just these few nights in September that's going to pay for your whole Powerwall basically in California under the new rules, where you're getting like $2 per kilowatt hour that you have. You're going to put out a lot more kilowatt hours during those 2 hours if you have 11.5 capacity of power output.
Yep, that's pretty sweet.
And I would assume that the whole Powerwall 3 is going to be unveiled relatively soon if we're getting a trickling information like that all the time. Oh, the BMW i5 was fully unveiled this week, and looks like a nice sedan. Honestly, I think people are going to be a little bit more happy with this one than the previous high vehicle from BMW. And like the kidney grill has been toned down a bit. Now looks a little bit more like the versions on the internal combustion engine BMWs. So I know a lot of people are not a fan of them, but I think these are a lot more palatable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It just looks more like a regular like BMW. They don't make it look so much like, hey, look at me, it's electric. It's just like BMW has some great design. They don't need to do that. Great design, except for those inputs on the interior that we just like. I hate their user inputs inside.
Oh, the dial.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the dial is just not a great concept. Just give me a good touch screen there or some analog buttons. I don't need that. And then need a dial. Yeah. So what are the specs on these things? Like, I'm gonna need to see the articles. I don't remember. I mean, the size of it. The size is basically a 5 Series. That's we know that. But all right. Do you see them? Specs and pricing go all the way down, probably. Yeah.
All right. So the eDrive 40, the base model, is 335 horsepower. Kind of okay. 295 foot-pound torque. Sport mode, 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds. That's not going to impress too many people. But the faster version is going to go. See, the eDrive 40 is 295 miles on a charge.
3.7 seconds on the.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
0 to 60 and 3.5 on the eDrive, the M60. So that's the one you're gonna probably want to get. Recommendation
295 miles of range. That's BMW estimated, but that's probably, is that WLTP or?
Not, yeah, that's BMW estimate, not EPA. And then the faster one is only going to have 256 miles of range. A little bit of a disappointment there.
Yeah.
256 is not horrible, but it's not going to blow anybody away.
Yeah, I mean, this car also, but it sits a little bit more like a different, like a segment that is not super electrified right now. Like these bigger sedans, like these mid-range sedans. It's not like a Model 3. It's not like a Model S. It's not like an EQS. It's not like it's sits in between a little bit, because the pricing is not horrific on it. It's not like an $80,000 car, is it? I think it starts at 60,000.
Yeah, 66.
66. Oh, yeah. So it's not cheap, because you won't get access to the tax credit on those.
Yep.
So, yeah. So you need to really want one. That's a problem in the US, though, with the tax credit. Like if you don't have access to it, and you have another car that you have access to it, you're like, I mean, it's free money. I'm going to take the free money. But at the same time, it's not for everyone, obviously, with the income limitations too.
Right.
All right, we have a few more news items we want to discuss before we jump into the comment section this week. So if you guys have any comments for us, please let us know. If you have any subjects you want us to discuss in the EV community, we can jump on that too. Doesn't have to be necessarily related to what we discussed today. And if you do enjoy the show, and also if you're as happy as us with the Ford deal for the supercharger and the Tesla connector, please press a like, thumbs up, whatever it is on the app that you're watching right now, because we're live everywhere. And if you do enjoy the podcast, on the Apple Podcast, you can also give us a 5-star review. That helps the show tremendously. We appreciate every single one of them. We got 2 of them last week that we read, and we liked you guys' comments. Thank you very much.
All right, so Cadillac announces the Escalade IQ, another huge low volume EV. That last part was my editorial on it. But the Escalade is going to have a huge Hummer-like battery. They're not going to, cut that down at all.
Yeah.
GM said basically just this is the name, and we're going to announce it later this year.
Yeah. But are you comparing, like when you said low volume, you mean more about pricing and the fact that it's going to be a big car, or
it's going to be $100,000 vehicle, I would assume.
Yeah, because also you have the fact like you can literally compare it when it comes to Cadillac. You have the Celestiq, which is like literally like a hand built $300,000 car. So I hope they don't do that with the Escalade, because the Escalade is on the gasoline powered side of things. It's a fairly high volume car, is it?
Yeah, it's their best selling vehicle, but Cadillac's not a huge seller, of vehicles. But
overall,
but and the other thing is, when we went to the GM Battery Day event right before the pandemic, they had an Escalade EV, and it was huge. Like it like the wheels were just, everything about it was just a monster. So that's immediately what I conjured up when the announcement came. I kind of hope they scale that back, but I don't know if they will. Maybe we'll see something more about that in the coming weeks and months. But it'll most likely use the same battery that the Silverado is using to get 350 miles of range, and the Hummer EV uses 200 plus kilowatt hours. It's interesting right now because obviously Cadillac's main competitor is Lincoln, and Ford's CEO, who we talked about earlier, Jim Farley, has been talking about huge batteries not being necessary or profitable, or whatever. I mean, obviously the Ford F-150 has a pretty large battery, over 130, 140 kilowatt hours, but these are 200 kilowatt hours. Ram is talking about some 250 kilowatt hour batteries. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that this space right now is pretty interesting. I also had a problem with the EQ, IQ.
Yeah, what's that about EQ?
So like, I understand, like, they did the Lyric and they did the Celestiq, that's fine, but then the Escalade IQ sounds like all of Mercedes stuff, which is EQ. Yeah. And I don't know, it just seemed like, geez. So anyway,
what's Cadillac's goal? They want to be all electric, right? By relatively soon.
And they said they're not going to announce any more gas cars.
Yeah, okay, that's what they said. So but when are they going to phase out the gasoline powered one, though?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then the new generation, they won't be like a new generation of gasoline Escalade either.
Right.
And that came out yesterday. The Hyundai and LG are making a deal to produce a very large $4.3 billion battery plant in the U.S. And I think it's coming to Georgia, if I'm right. Hyundai, like the Korean, they love the South for their for their battery, but not just the battery, their car factories too.
It's not just the Korean manufacturers; the Germans love it too. Yeah,
the Germans love it too. And so, what's do you see the timing on this thing? I don't remember exactly.
I'm looking for it here.
enough 30 gigawatt hour of batteries. Okay, so that makes sense for a $4.3 billion investment. 2025.
Right, at the earliest.
Yeah.
3,000 jobs. That's good.
Yeah, construction in the second half of the year. It's in Bryan County. I don't know where that is. Georgia, Bryan County.
Yeah.
Good news for people there. There's a lot of jobs, 3,000 jobs or something like that. Generally, that's the size for these large factories. All right, let's jump into the comment section.
All right, we had a bunch at the beginning when we were talking about the Ford NACS, so let's jump into those. Dan Oberstay, question: do you think Ford will change the location of the charge port? We did talk about that a little bit. That would be great if they did, or maybe they put the CCS in one spot and the NACS in another.
It depends if they go with the dual chargers or not.
Yeah, probably not economical to do that though. Did Ford just create a nightmare scenario where CCS standard is eroded? I'm concerned that this was a real tipping point towards massive confusion in the industry. It will be CCS regardless because
NACS
is in a protocol they have written as a standard. Yeah, NACS, I believe, uses the CCS protocol.
Yeah, they do.
So, I mean, it's just...
it's the connector. It's just the connector
just metal, touching metal.
And the connector itself, the design of the connector is undeniably better than CCS. It's
right. Smaller, easier, everything. So
yeah. But I understand Carl's concern, though. Obviously, so no one wants to have a different standard and everything. So we thought that Tesla was gonna fold. Now seems to be very much alive. So obviously, you want the best design to win. So you would want the NACS to take over. It could create a hardcore thing for a little bit. I don't know if let's say that nothing else happened. It's just Ford and Tesla versus everybody else on CCS. Is that huge of a deal? It's not that different than what we have right now. Especially if that adapter is available to everybody else, and they just I think if it stays like that, it gives Tesla and Ford the advantage. You have a little bit smoother experience with those two on the supercharger network, which is by far the best charging network in the so that's really the changing point. Is how much better is the supercharger network to everybody else? So how smooth of an experience you want on that. And if Tesla and Ford have the advantage there, that's good. So yeah, I mean, if the others, and when I mean the others, I mean the automakers and the charging networks don't want to get on board with NACS, that's fine. But then they're gonna have to up their game a lot to be able to compensate for how smooth the supercharger experience is. So I guess that's the decision they have to make right now. Is do we get better at what we do, or do we fold and just use Tesla stuff? Which is not necessarily Tesla stuff anymore. It's NACS. But honestly, this is one of those, I think that I know I've seen some of the naysayers at Tesla that are saying, oh, it's just a money grab because of the money for charging station for the federal government that requires more than one. If that was just a money grab, there's a lot easier ways to do it, and that easier way is that magic duck thing. Just do the magic duck and don't care about what other automakers do or don't with their EVs. So I don't think it's a money grab. I think it's literally the Tesla mission to accelerate the advent of EVs. And if everybody use the NACS, it's going to help those EVs to sell more. It's as simple as that. So I think this is one of those things where it's actually Tesla has done the mission thing more than anything else. It's not a money grab or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm convinced. Usually I'm skeptical, but I think and we've always said that the Tesla charger handle is better. There's no question. It's just smaller.
You just need to see them. You just need to handle them. It's just there's no argument.
All right, Stacy Drennan from Facebook says absolutely no way CCS wins North America after this.
I think they need one more. I think they need to seal the deal. I think to be a real domino effect, fair to Ford, like give all the credit to Ford, the first to do it, takes a lot of courage and all that, and they technically would start the domino effect. But I need to see it start. I need to see another one fall. And I don't think it needs to be like GM or like one of the huge one, but just one more to make a difference. That would be nice.
Yeah, maybe Hyundai or
yeah, a Korean would be like great. Like
yeah. All right. Sounded during the announcement that pricing for charging wasn't confirmed either. Yeah, I think we're early days on this stuff, but it sounded like they were going to be reasonable at least.
Yeah, Farley mentioned something about like not necessarily like per the kilowatt hour, but like some subscription service and things like that that could be also offered. He said there's going to be several options. So
yeah,
I'm all for options.
I think didn't Elon say something like it was going to be the same price for Tesla owners as Ford owners?
Oh, I didn't remember hearing that.
Maybe I'm making that up. I don't know. I feel like I heard that. By the way, Twitter Spaces, not the best place to get a news conference. I have to say, like, both of them were pretty bad. And were they even in the same room? Farley and Elon?
No,
or were they?
Yeah, I don't think so. You don't need to be in the same room for Twitter Spaces. That's
right.
the whole idea, though. I mean, this one wasn't bad. Like I know, like the DeSantis one, before there was an issue and they had to restart on another page than Elon's, but Elon's claimed that it was because there was too many people coming to this page. But to be honest, like it sounded a lot like, when Trump said that his inauguration, it was record people and all that. Like they kept always like lying about the crowds and everything. It sounded a lot like that because this is huge. This is the biggest Twitter space of all time. And they were 300,000 people, which is nice. Like it's a lot of people, like congrats. But is like that sounds like TV ratings to me. Like it's not. Is it that difference? Like it's TV ratings, 300,000 sounds like CNBC has probably that, like 300,000 people.
All right, Carl in San Diego, Magic Dock will be abandoned. It is interesting that they haven't kept going with the Magic Dock. Just an observation. They rolled out 7 Magic Dock stations and 0 after that. So
yeah, I don't know. Like maybe they gave it up because of that. Yeah,
and Stacy has a good point. Magic Dock is the adapter. I mean, it's basically like one side is Tesla and one side is CCS, and it's not rocket science. All right, let's keep moving through these. Tesla monopoly and U.S. charging network is a huge bad risk, too big to fail.
There's no monopoly at all.
Like anybody can build a charger. It's not.
Yeah. And they have there is another charger. There's several other networks. It's just not as good. Like you cannot blame like a Tesla for being better than the others.
Yeah, I know. It's and Electrify America had free money. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of on them really. Looks like there's room to play. Okay, so now we're talking about the Cybertruck. Looks like there's room to play foosball on the massive dash. It's still better than the yoke. Sylvian says about the.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think the new steering wheel is better.
Yeah. And Carl thinks the dash is a dog bed. Probably not safe for driving, but maybe at other times. Daniel DeYoung is opening the network a net positive or net negative for Tesla. All right, we're back in the. Seems very positive for Ford. If you're shopping Mach-E versus Model Y, the biggest factor was charging.
Yeah, I mean it's a net positive on like if you want to have a bigger charging business, but yeah, it does give. It does remove an advantage that you have, and that now is not just you that you have it. You have a competitor that has it too. But again, that's why I'm saying like it's a mission move. It's not like a business move. I think it's very much about the mission. So I don't really care really if it's a net positive or not. It's a net positive for EVs and for consumers in the US.
Yeah. All right. Moving on a little bit. It's not a monopoly. Anybody can use the plug and make the charger now. It's a better plug anyway. Plus, Tesla actually maintains their network, which is a dig at the other. The dash is where you can carry full sheets of plywood everybody's been worried about. Okay.
Yeah, that was a thing. Like with the bed, people want to know if they can lay a full sheet of plywood in
it. Do we have any idea how profitable the charging network is for Tesla? I mean, up until recently, it's been kind of a break even.
Yeah, and I mean, Tesla is starting to make some money on that. Like the thing is that it's in the column in the row about service and everything else. So I think service is probably the biggest part of it, actual service. But also, obviously, used car business is also in there. That's also huge. So I think charging is not a big one in there, but it did turn positive recently. So it is somewhat profitable. No, we don't know. The answer is that we don't know if it's profitable or not. I think it can be long term for sure. Yeah.
All right. Have you ever used an on-route charger in Ontario? They're right off the highway and have both CCS and Tesla adapters, but I don't think Tesla installed their own. I'm not familiar with those.
Yeah, those are truck stops, I think, in that way.
Solid state, anything new in solid state battery in the EV industry?
I'm following QuantumScape and Solid Power fairly closely. I think they are the two that are closest to bring into production, and they both look like they are on pace for having automotive grade batteries this year, later this year. It sounds like they're both like around getting close to it. We've heard that one before, obviously, so take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, it looks like we're getting fairly close. It's in the next maybe 12 months. The automakers are going to have something that they can test out in their cars. And well, that doesn't need commercial production just yet, but at least that's what's encouraging about solid state and QuantumScape is they're not just like labs trying to make prototypes of cells. Their cells are meant to be mass produced. So that's the encouraging part.
All right. So much factory growth in the face of a recession is super risky for Tesla, already facing demand slowing. It's like they didn't notice. I think they've got a lot of cash, though, on hand. Tesla does.
A lot of cash on hand, and I think the latest price cut did help a lot on that front.
All right. So talking about the i5, it's kind of the same motors as the i4s, but bigger trunk and room. His Army, can you expand on the Powerwall almost being free if you are in California? That's getting paid back from those super peaks.
Yeah, they've been a change in the net metering laws lately, and laws or rules or whatever, and now like the paybacks are like extremely low, like disappointingly low most of the time, but super high in September and like a few days in September when it's known that the power grid in California needs help. So just those few days you can make like hundreds of dollars every year from having a Powerwall. So I'm not maybe not exactly free, but it does compensate for the cost of having a Powerwall, which then you can use for like off grid if you lose power because of outages and all that. So you can get all the benefits and having the cost being covered by these few days that you can make hundreds of dollars.
Carl in San Diego, I don't think the NACS connector can handle liquid cooling. While I think liquid cooling is overkill, it's where the 350 kilowatt charging was taking us.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Liquid cooling.
It has liquid cooling.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Build pit. Do you think Tesla is giving with a build pit?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Monroe took apart the Hummer EV pack. I didn't check that out. I didn't see any news coming out of that. Did you watch that at all?
No.
Okay. Do you think Tesla is expanding its supercharger network fast enough to keep up with demand?
I mean, to keep up with demand, that's a good question. They are expanding it fast. I think so. The keep up with demand part is like there is going to be some bottlenecks at times, but those are generally like in some specific regions. Tesla doesn't skimp on this. At least like when they do deploy a new station, they do deploy at least 6 chargers, which is unlike most of them. And most of the time, it is unlike most of the other networks. And most of the time, it's way more than 6. It's 8. 12, 20, 40 sometimes. So I think we see Tesla now like focusing more on getting those extra charging station to help areas that are bottlenecks. But yeah, I mean, I think Tesla is pretty smart on that. Like they have all the data to do it. Like they know, like okay, like they know like a surge of demand in a specific area. They know the capacity of their network there. They have all the data to do it. When it doesn't go right, I think it's more of an issue of like there's so many things that can slow down an installation of a supercharger station. There's just so many factors that have to come together at once to make a station happen. That if there's a delay on one, then that's when then they're back up on the capacity in a region, and then boom, it's Thanksgiving and everybody is traveling, and then that's where you get those lines happening.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Does the Escalade have a frunk? We know nothing about the Escalade. It's huge. Why not? Maybe it might be hard to reach. It's so big. So that's the frunk.
Yeah.
When superchargers get full or have only one spot, the software could show 0 available to Ford and other drivers, leaving the last spot for Tesla. Thoughts? That would be not
kind of
great.
Misleading.
Yeah.
Yeah. What Tesla needs though is like some kind of like queuing system in the app for when the stations are full. That would take care of some of that.
Okay. So having the Twitter,
not a fan of Barra there, Mr. Turkey neck. Sorry.
Yeah. That I think that's true.
Yeah.
But whatever. Anyway, Carl and San Diego agree having Twitter announcement 24 hours after DeSantis announcement was super bad optics for Ford. Musk and DeSantis are both anti-union. It did sound so. I have to say, like Ford kind of capitulating, I would say a little bit was a little bit. It just felt like a little bit like, it just felt like Ford had, and rightfully so, they had, their network sucks. Their charging network, the Ford network wasn't any good, so they're capitulating. It's going to be better for their customers, so good for Ford for doing it, but they're not walking around
making the announcement on Twitter. I think that's Elon these days. Like if you want to do some kind of announcement, something with Elon, you're gonna have to do it on Twitter Space. The guy is
right.
full on pushing Twitter right now. That's what he wants to do. So.
All right, Carl in San Diego, the point about Tesla monopoly is that if every other manufacturer adopts NACS, then relies on Tesla network versus doing deals with other networks to help them grow, then Tesla could be the last one standing.
No, that's not the deal. Like if you adopt NACS, like NACS is an open standard right now, so anyone can build the chargers also and operate their own networks with the same connectors. That's it. So, and we already see that happening. EVgo has the NACS now on some of the station, and it's growing on more stations. So, Electrify America can do the same if they want, and so on. So there's not going to be any monopoly. It's not going to be like I know the fear. I understand the fear. Like if there was like just Shell has all the gas station in the world, then obviously they can control the pricing and all that. And not that there's not be any what do you call that in English when they all gang together and fix the price?
Like OPEC. Cartel.
Oh yeah, well yeah, it's basically cartel. Yeah, so yeah, there's not going to be that because, well, first of all, it's not like oil. Also, like the price of the rates at the charging station are so relying on electricity rates that it's all going to depends on who produces electricity at what rates. But the chargers themselves, anyone can build them with the NACS right now. So yeah, it's not a monopoly anymore.
All right, Sylvain with the last one. Tesla also announced today that they are opening up chargers in Canada to other cars and creating an Ottawa-Sudbury charging corridor for other brands. Were you aware of this?
Yeah, I mean, we did a report on the corridor earlier this week. I think now Tesla is like getting onto the deal where they're going to facilitate that by opening the supercharger on those corridors. I mean, we knew that it was going to happen. We knew that Tesla is just going to open all the station eventually. So I think they just got on board for the specific section that they're opening.
All right, cool. That's it.
Well, that's it for us today, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. I appreciate every single one of you, and we're going to see you